We open with a memorial of Steve Rogers, very similar to the one that we see in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show, as we see Sam Wilson looking at some sort of poster of the original Captain America. We hear his and Steve's last interaction from Avengers Endgame as a voiceover. We see on Sam's face the sense of uncertainty, a sense that he may not yet feel worthy of such a mantle. That is when we cut to Sam inside a plane being flown by Torres. Sam is wearing his red and white outfit from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and in his hands, holding the shield once used by Captain America, the one he is now expected to call his own. We hear Torres over the intercoms as he says something about how they're finally going to catch Batroc the Leaper. And this is when we get a very similar action sequence to the opening of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, although this time Sam is now using the shield. One thing I do want to be shown in this fight is that Sam doesn't yet know how to use Cap's shield properly. He uses it, quite literally, as a shield, simply blocking attacks, but missing when he tries to throw it and nearly getting himself into trouble. Ultimately, however, Sam manages to defeat Batroc with a great deal of effort and then prepares to bring him into custody once and for all. We then cut to Bucky as we get the same flashback sequence and the therapy scene from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He remembers the killing of that young man right in front of his apartment and his pleas for mercy before he is awoken in a sweat. We'll see Bucky now a civilian in the present. We'll see him simply sitting with Yori and hanging out with him as he remembers the death of his son, although we won't see much more than that. We see that Bucky is still dealing with the trauma of being the Winter Soldier, and that still plagues him despite being free. We'll also get somewhat of a flashback of the Dora Milaje freeing his mind, but that's the most amount of Wakanda we will be getting. We then go back to Sam Wilson as he brings in Batroc the Leaper to the proper authorities when he is confronted with General Thunderbolt Ross. Ross tells Sam that he can no longer continue to hold the mantle of Captain America. Sam argues against that, but Ross counters by stating that the Sokovian Accords are still in effect and that Sam Wilson is technically still a criminal of the United Nations due to the events of Civil War. Sam argues that that's crazy, since he and the Avengers saved the world against Thanos, with or without the United Nations' approval. Ross again argues just how much destruction was caused by that, referring to the Snap, which is being renamed the Snap rather than the Blip. Sam is then arrested temporarily and sent to court for his actions, his mantle as Captain America being taken away. We then cut to a courtroom as Sam Wilson is sat in front of the United Nations, now pleading his case for why he must remain in active duty. But we see how the United Nations refuse him at every turn, counter him at every turn. Sam tells the United Nations that due to the existence of so many superhumans using their abilities for destruction, that there must be a group like the Avengers to make sure another Thanos doesn't happen. However, despite Sam's best efforts, Thunderbolt Ross reveals that he's already found a new Captain America who works under the Sokovian Accords, as he introduces John Walker. We see Sam watch in horror as John is presented with the shield and is announced to the United Nations as the new hero of America. Finally, Sam just walks out of the courtroom, utterly defeated and lost. We then go to Madripor, a haven of crime, scum, and villainy. We go within the city walls to where we see this chamber, which should feel very similar to Vito Corleone's office from The Godfather, as several thugs are brought inside by the Flag Smashers. In this rewrite, the Flag Smashers and Carly will serve as henchmen and servants of the true villain of the story. We see these thugs trying to make excuses for some sort of failure, as the figure sitting at the desk is revealed, the leader. The leader states that currently the active rebellion in Madripor has gotten out of hand, and that the one behind all of it is far too close to discovering all that has been built within the city, and that he must be removed permanently. We learn that these thugs have actually tipped off this rebel agent about one of the leader's hidden secret bases after being beaten in a fight, and they were desperate to save their own lives. The leader then orders Carly to execute the thugs, and she does without question. The leader then proclaims that now that the Avengers are disassembled, that the vacuum for power is free game, a vacuum they will soon control once they have finished all they have planned in Madripor. This is when we cut to outside the office, where we see a masked man watching this conversation using some sort of hearing device. It's Helmut Zemo, aka the rebel agent the leader was talking about. Suddenly, he is forced to retreat as the leader looks out the window, sensing Zemo, watching him as he quickly orders Carly and the Flag Smashers to pursue. We get a small chase scene as Zemo escapes the Flag Smashers, and we see the Flag Smashers' super soldier abilities, which certainly proves to be a new form of direct challenge for Zemo. Ultimately, Zemo manages to escape by stealing a plane, as he realizes that he is clearly out of his league dealing with superhumans. And if he's going to defeat the leader and his super soldiers, he's going to need some superhumans of his own. We cut back to Sam Wilson, who is back to leading the military therapy sessions similar to what he did in The Winter Soldier. We see that in his eyes, he feels shattered. He just lost the legacy of Captain America, the one Steve had entrusted in him, and now it was gone in the hands of some free agent of the government. That is when he sees a television broadcast promoting the new Captain America as John Walker, when we then cut to Bucky as he sees that same broadcast as he looks on in shock and horror. We then cut to Bucky waiting outside Sam's therapy office as the patients walk out. Bucky then marches in and confronts Sam about how he lost the shield, and we see Sam try to argue back, saying he had no choice. That is when there's another news report stating that a group of vigilantes are attacking a large truck, and that the driver is calling for help. Sam and Bucky look at each other with disappointment and defeat before ultimately deciding that they have to make amends and go and help out. This is when we get the truck fight from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, as Sam and Bucky square off with the Flag Smashers, fully unaware of who they're protecting, before John Walker and Agent Hoskins show up, and we see just how unqualified John Walker is to hold the shield. I do think Bucky should do a lot better in this fight, since he's kinda nerfed in the actual fight from the show, but ultimately the fight will result in about the same way. The Flag Smashers escape, Sam, Bucky, John, and Hoskins are forced to retreat, while Zemo also manages to escape during this fight. Anyways, Sam and Bucky go to check and see if their driver is okay when he takes off his mask and reveals himself as Zemo. "I hope now is a good time to mention who I am." Bucky instantly grabs Zemo in a chokehold, still angry at him for how he used the Winter Soldier during Civil War. However, he receives some PTSD of choking someone as the Winter Soldier and ultimately releases him. "Good to see you as well, Sergeant Barnes." "What do you want, Zemo?" Sam asks. "Well, you just fought them. There is this massive power grab going on in the city of Madripor right now, and those superhumans are the enforcers of a powerful and dangerous man named the Leader." "And you want this leader gone so you can take all the power for yourself?" "On the contrary, in a world where the only remaining Avengers are a retired archer, a hybrid of man and beast, and a space god who drops cities on your entire family, I want to make sure these corrupt superhumans do not achieve these malicious goals, so that we never have to suffer another Sokovia." "And you want us to take this leader and his little band out for you? To act as your bodyguards?" "I understand we have a sense of differences between us, but right now, there is a greater threat to the both of us, one that wields great power and great danger."
Case in point, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
In case you didn't notice, but we barely stood a chance against those guys back there. How exactly do you expect us to fight their whole army?
I do not, but I know where their enhanced abilities come from. There is a scientist in Madripor who has perfected the original super soldier serum. The leader pushed it a step further, adding a sense of gamma radiation, making the serum even stronger than the one powering Steve Rogers' veins. And I have a lead on where to find him.
Sam and Bucky look hesitant to trust Zemo, but ultimately realize that there is a threat at hand and it is their responsibility to put an end to it. They nod and they follow Zemo to try and find a way to Madripor. We cut to John Walker in his barracks with Agent Hoskins, talking about how powerful those flag smashers were and just how unprepared they were. John opens up about how all he wants to do is be as good as the original Captain America, to prove himself as the perfect soldier, and to bring order and stability to the world using his new role. We see that while Lamar believes in a different ideology, he does support John in his struggles, being that calming voice on his head. That is when Thunderbolt Ross approaches Walker and tells him that he's being given his first official task by the government to track down the Flag Smashers and their leader in Madripor and bring them back to America. Because of the Flag Smashers making their presence known during the truck fight, Ross has a proper way to track them where they came from and where they fled, and now he can locate Stearns and his agents once and for all. John promises Ross that he won't fail him and that he will make him proud before taking up his shield and getting ready for battle under the identity of Captain America. We go to see Sam, Bucky, and Zemo drive in a car as they get back to the plane to fly back to Madripor. We can even have that meme, he's out of line, but he's right, because God forbid a Marvel movie doesn't have comedy. And while they're on the plane, this is when Zemo will give his little speech about superhumans and their desire for supremacy.
The problem with you superhumans is how you are placed on pedestals, implanting a supremacy-based ideology, a warped aspiration taken too far that leads to Nazis and Ultron and the Avengers.
The Avengers were a team bent on saving the world, Sam argues. They were not supremacists.
And yet they got away with annihilating cities, killing trillions, and simply going home without consequences. Let's not forget which people it was who created Ultron in the first place, and allowed this Thanos to temporarily erase half of humanity.
Thanos' snap is not something you can blame on the Avengers. We all fought till the end, and sacrificed everything to stop him, and to bring all those people back.
And yet, look how much of the world was forced to suffer by those events. Families being forced to relocate, finance systems ripped to shreds, and mental trauma on a global scale. All as the Avengers got to celebrate another victory.
Sam and Bucky then look at each other, shocked and somewhat affected by Zemo's words, as Zemo continues.
Superhumans must take accountability for their power, their actions, otherwise they are merely supremacists fighting over power.
What about me? When you used me as your little weapon, Bucky asked. You tried to control me. Certainly sounds like supremacy in my eyes.
Touché. Alas, my younger self was too blinded by immediate grief to see such a philosophy.
And all of a sudden you understand this concept?
Sergeant Barnes, you and I are both the creation of destructive forces, destroying all we knew and twisting our minds into monsters we wish we could erase from history. We are broken men, seeking a way to do the right thing. I do not regret everything I did to break the Avengers, but all those innocent civilians, the King of Wakanda, their lives, I do regret. as do I regret manipulating another broken man, such as yourself. Now we both have the power to make amends and bring justice.
Bucky looks at Zemo with hesitation, but that is when they all arrive at Madripor and the conversation is interrupted. The three all head into Madripor as Zemo leads them down to this broken house, where we meet Isaiah Bradley. Isaiah is not happy to see Sam and Bucky, and we get a similar interaction to the one Sam and Bucky have with Isaiah in the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. We also learn here that Zemo has been helping Isaiah pay for his house and give him sanctuary, showing that while Zemo is a dark figure with questionable motives, he is someone with a heart and isn't completely evil. Zemo asks Isaiah about the new super soldier serum being created by the leader, to which Isaiah explains how they experimented on him using various forms of the serum. He explains that the US government had been working on a recreation of the serum since the original Dr. Erskine was killed, and that Samuel Stearns was one of the scientists who worked on the project. Eventually, a man named Dr. Wilfred Nagel, along with Stearns, finally perfected the serum, making it even better than the one before. That was when there was a tension between Ross and Stearns, and that Stearns had betrayed Ross and went into hiding in Madripor. Zemo thanks Isaiah for his info and reveals that he recently got a lead that the thugs from earlier had tipped him off, and that had led him in the direction of someone named Luke Jacobson, whose profession was primarily for creating suits for superheroes, but was secretly being held under Stearns' payroll to hide Wilfred Nagel and allow the scientist to continue with his operations. Sam suggests that they get a move on towards Luke Jacobson's base when, as they exit the house, are confronted by John Walker and Hoskins. "You don't have any jurisdiction here, especially doing government work with a terrorist." "Technically, you don't have that jurisdiction either, being in a foreign country." "Samuel Stearns' little lapdogs attacked us on our soil. Ross was able to track their escape back to here. We can end their whole operations right now, which is what we are already trying to do. But you need to let us work with Zemo. As much as we don't like it, he's been fighting these guys way longer than us, and he knows what he's doing." John hesitates before Hoskins speaks up.
"John, those two are Avengers. They've fought even bigger fights than us. I think we should listen and work together with them."
John finally accepts and nods. "What's your plan?" Sam turns to Zemo, who explains that they need to find Luke Jacobson's establishment where Nagel is being hidden, and so the group goes off. We cut to the team finding Jacobson's building and entering as Zemo is approached by Luke Jacobson, and we see that Jacobson's actually a pretty chill guy compared to the more aggressive Flag Smashers. Zemo holds some short, small talk with Jacobson before he asks about Wilfred Nagel, and Jacobson goes silent and shakes his head. John Walker then butts in. "Sir, we don't have all day." To which Jacobson gives a confused look as John announces himself. "John Walker, Captain America. We're looking for Dr. Wilfred Nagel, and we've already been told that he's here. Please comply with our orders, and we will be on our way quickly." That's when Jacobson shushes John and explains the secrecy.
"They're watching us,"
he reveals, as he points everyone to several cameras set up in his store. Jacobson reveals that he's been held somewhat hostage by the leader so that Nagel could use his basement for experiments. Zemo nods and says that they will have to be quick before Stearns sends his enforcers to face them. We then go to the basement where Sam and Bucky sneak up on Nagel, who is working on another set of vials filled with super soldier serum. He is finally stopped in his tracks when Zemo holds a gun to the back of his head and is told to turn around slowly. Nagel turns around and faces the group of Sam, Bucky, Zemo, and John Walker all staring at him. He surrenders, and we get the interrogation scene from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, as Nagel explains how he recreated the serum along with Samuel Stearns for Ross, and how they broke away and came to Madripor. Nagel explains that both he and Stearns realized that Thunderbolt Ross was just going to use their creations to make himself more powerful, make his soldiers more powerful, only to use them as pawns. Since Stearns was already superhuman due to the gamma radiation accident, and Nagel had perfected the serum, they moved to Madripor and began taking power wherever they could. This is when the Flag Smashers come through the base and throw Hoskins down, as Zemo murders Nagel and a battle ensues within the Jacobson shop. We see that, just as with the truck fight, the super serum-empowered Flag Smashers hold a significant advantage, although our heroes do hold a fighting chance. Two key moments I would like to have are Zemo destroying the vials of serum before John Walker stops him, leaving only one vial behind, to which John picks up. And another is when one of the Flag Smashers attempts to kill Jacobson, but is ultimately stopped by Sam Wilson, who manages to narrowly defeat that one Smasher. Ultimately, both parties are called off by the authority figures stepping in, and both sides retreat as Jacobson is spared. Although we focus on a long shot of John staring intensely at the super soldier serum vial. We then focus back on Sam, Bucky, and Zemo as they recuperate from the battle. Zemo then explains to Sam and Bucky just who the leader is, explaining that he has been empowered by gamma radiation, making him nearly as powerful as a Hulk, compared to the super soldiers they were already struggling with. Zemo then asks Sam if he would take the serum, to which Sam replies, "No. I don't need some serum to determine if I'm going to try and do the right thing."
That is the correct answer,
Zemo responds.
You see, the leader, for all his motivations, is entirely led by greed and lusting for power. You heard what Nagel said. They came here to Madripor only for the intention of gathering unlimited, unrestricted power. Superhumans are supremacists by nature, but the leader, he is a supremacist who embraces the ideology and wields it to his advantage, and that makes him even more dangerous than how hard he can punch.
We then cut to John Walker and Hoskins also recovering from the fight, as John looks at the serum, and we get the same conversation between the two from the Falcon and Winter Soldier, as John questions whether he should take the serum or not, and Hoskins pushes him to do it. They talk about all the missions they did for the military together, and how the idea of having a super soldier serum would have been so beneficial during those nightmares. The two share their memories and tell each other how much they mean to each other, before they go their separate ways. That is when Lamar is met by several shadowy figures, and is then knocked out. We then go back to Sam Wilson, as he gets a call on his phone. Bucky and Zemo seem to be somewhere else as Sam answers. That is when he hears the voice of the leader.
You certainly have some tenacity in handling my guards, Mr. Wilson. What do you want, Stearns? I want you and your little Avenger freaks to stay away from my city and all I have worked to build here. I don't think that's going to happen. Tell me, Mr. Wilson, what motivations lead you to attack my power base? I have done nothing to your country. Yet. You sent your enhanced agents into my country. You held Jacobson hostage, and you started work on an illegal super soldier serum. I sent my Flag Smashers after a terrorist hell-bent on destroying my operations, the leader countered. The same one that tore your Avengers apart, and yet you still followed him here like a pet. This comment forces Sam to remain silent, as he ponders his next choice of words. Let me give you a piece of advice, Mr. Wilson. For those like us who wield power, it is our necessity that we use it. After all, we have the power to guide trillions of people. We are meant to rule them. No. If we use our power only to rule them, we're no better than the worst of humanity. Yet we are above humanity. Not true. For all our power, we are nothing without the flaws that have guided us to where we are now. Well then, I guess some of your flaws include having your agents get captured.
Sam pauses as he hears the leader's words. "What did you do?" "I could tell you. Or you could have Agent Hoskins tell you when you so predictably come to the rescue." That is when the phone hangs up and Sam is approached by both Zemo and Bucky. "Stearns kidnapped Agent Hoskins."
"That is hardly a concern right now," Zemo argues. "Our mission must remain the top priority."
"And what exactly is our mission? You just recruited us out of the blue."
"If someone like Stearns is allowed to remain in power, we will just be allowing more corrupt leaders like the Red Skull or Hydra to exist."
"But if we just focus on power bases versus power bases, we lose sight of our purpose as heroes," Sam counters. "That is to help people." "It's likely a trap," Bucky adds on. Sam shrugs. "That hardly makes me reconsider." "Good. Glad to know we're on the same page." The following fight scene will be the one from The Falcon and the Winter Soldier Episode 4, with a few alterations. Number 1 is that Lamar will have been kidnapped from the start, which gives Sam, Bucky, and John all reasons to be here during this battle. Secondly, the leader will actually be present during this fight, where we will see him use his telepathic abilities to amplify the Flag Smashers in battle. During this fight, it will be revealed that John Walker has indeed taken the super soldier serum. The fight remains the same, all the way up until the infamous moment where Lamar Hoskins is killed by the Flag Smashers. John tries to wake up his friend to no avail, and then he loses it. Following Walker's shocking murder of the Flag Smasher, we get the same scene of Sam and Bucky tracking John down and taking the shield from him in an epic battle. Ultimately, Sam and Bucky retrieve the shield and break John Walker's arm as Bucky leaves the shield for Sam before leaving. We cut to Zemo as he watches the news of John Walker's actions. He's chuckling to himself about the irony of the situation, before Sam and Bucky return, defeated and broken. Zemo ridicules them about their attempt to try and play hero, but Sam and Bucky don't want to hear it. Sam then just goes into another room by himself with the shield as he ponders to himself. We then cut back to John Walker as he is flown back to America and faces the same trial scene we get in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Following his loss of practically everything, we also get the same scene of John being met by Valentina Allegra de Fonte as she tells Walker that he did the right thing by taking the serum. That is when she hands Walker a circular case and tells him that he's going to need it, before telling him to keep in touch. We then go to the leader as he watches the murder of one of his agents on the news at the hands of the new Captain America. The leader is now pissed. Not only have the Americans infiltrated his world, but have now murdered his agents and his partner Nagel on his land. It's come to war, as Stearns declares to the rest of the Flag Smashers that they will be making their way to Washington, D.C. to have a conversation with Thunderbolt Ross. We go back to Sam Wilson as he stares at the now bloodied shield in horror and sadness. That is when Bucky approaches him, entering the room as the two share a powerful conversation. "You know, when Steve told me what he was going to do, I guess neither of us knew what it would feel like to give you the shield. When you lost it to Walker and Ross, It felt as if a part of me had been lost. I owe you an apology.
Thanks, Sam says calmly. I tried to live up to Steve and all that he did, but all I've ever done is screw up. I let my wingman Riley die in the field. I let the Avengers fall with the Accords. I failed to keep Steve's own shield out of the wrong hands. Why did Steve choose me for this role when I've done nothing but screw up?
Steve chose you because you're the one who always gets back up after every hit and still does the right thing, Bucky responds. You're the one who always puts his priorities behind the needs of those who need help. You fight to make sure the people of our world sleep easier, and you never give up. You might not be a perfect soldier, Sam, but you're a damn good man. Sam smiles as he looks at the book that Bucky has in his pocket. You're using that book to help make amends? Yeah, although I'm not really sure it's working. You gotta stop looking at other people for them to make you feel better. You need to make them feel better. I'm sure there's at least one person in that book who needs closure on something. Bucky smiles and nods as the two get up. That is when Zemo sneaks into the room.
I hope not to disturb your sweet little moment, but reports are rising that Stearns is launching an attack against Ross in DC.
Zemo shows Sam and Bucky a recording video of the leader and the Flag Smashers preparing for battle.
We need to move if we are to stop them, and I do not intend to leave my work unfinished.
As much as I hate to admit it, Zemo's right. We need to finish this battle before more people get hurt. Bucky nods. Yeah, but first I gotta see something. We then see Bucky approaching Luke Jacobson and asking a favor of him for Sam Wilson, which Jacobson agrees after Sam saved his life during one of the earlier fights. We then go to later in the day as Sam and Zemo prepare the plane to head for DC when Bucky approaches Sam with a box and tells Sam to get prepared for battle. As Sam opens the box and we cut to the next scene. We then cut to the leader's attack on DC as he communicates with Thunderbolt Ross. Stearns tells Ross that his infiltrations of Madripor will be met with consequences, and that his desires of kidnapping Nagel's work will backfire as several of the Flag Smashers are deployed onto the ground and begin to create chaos. We then see John Walker witnessing this chaos as he looks at one of Hoskins' badges to give him the motivational strength. He then unveils the case that Val gave him, which reveals the U.S. agent shield. And then, as he suits up, John Walker goes back into battle. We cut back to witnessing the leader and the Flag Smashers enacting chaos throughout DC before the leader storms one of the Senate buildings and confronts Thunderbolt Ross face to face as we see the terror he and his Flag Smashers have enacted.
You tear apart my world, Ross. I tear apart yours. These are the consequences of trying to break a god.
We then cut to Zemo's plane as he and Bucky prepare their guns for battle. They're flying as fast as they can back to DC as they see several other planes in the sky as the other Flag Smashers take to the ground. Bucky and Zemo look at each other one last time before battle.
For whatever it's worth, Sergeant Barnes, I couldn't have asked for a better ally in this whole fight.
Yeah, I still hate you, but maybe not as much now. The two share a nod before Bucky prepares to land the plane.
Thank you, James, for everything.
Bucky nods as Zemo goes and puts on his iconic purple mask. Bucky then goes into the plane's cockpit as he calls up Sam, asking him if he's almost there, to which Sam reveals he is. Bucky then asks how he's liking the new suit, to which Sam responds with, "You'll see." That is when we see the shadow of Sam fly right past the plane as Bucky just smiles. That is when Sam throws the shield through the window to where Stearns and Ross are, and comes to Ross's aid, no longer the Falcon, but now fully embracing the title of Captain America. Captain America and the leader then begin to clash, as it becomes apparent that between the leader's superior strength and telepathic powers, that Cap is just a bit out of his league, although this fight does give Thunderbolt Ross just enough time to escape, before Cap retreats himself, and proceeds to face off against the Flag Smashers, who are using aerial craft, getting to show us Sam's new suit made for him by Jacobson, and all of its functionality and what it can do. It may not be vibranium like the canon one, but it certainly identifies Sam as Captain America as the crowds cheer him on. Meanwhile, on the ground, John Walker confronts Carly and some of the other Flag Smashers on the ground as he attempts to avenge his friend Lamar, with still one of his arms being broken. Just as he is about to be overpowered, he is saved by the incoming arrival of Bucky. Although the two have their differences, they stand together and fight off the Flag Smashers, while Zemo slips his way towards the Senate building where Stearns and Ross originally were. We cut to inside the building as Stearns uses his telepathy to try and provide support to his troops before he is confronted by Zemo. Stearns is outraged by Zemo's presence as the two share an intense dialogue after so many months of ongoing war between the two.
This is all your creation, Helmut. Isn't it beautiful? You destroyed all I worked to build. And for what? Power? Glory? No. Protection. Soon we will not have to live in a world where children are scared of superhumans taking over their homes. Protection. How long do you think you can protect yourself from me?
The leader then moves to attack Zemo, as suddenly, Zemo fires several shots at a generator, causing a massive explosion which engulfs the leader. While he's down, Zemo fires several shots at Stearns and creates another explosion, crippling Stearns severely. I think I've got a few good hours left, Zemo remarks as he slips away once again. We return to the main battle while Stearns slowly recovers, some of the Flag Smashers noticing Thunderbolt Ross attempting to escape and track him down, although they are held off by Sam, John, and Bucky. That is when Stearns finally enters the battle, and he and Captain America face off in one final epic duel. Now this fight will be far more even, as the leader is now severely injured and burned from his brief confrontation with Zemo. However, even so, the leader still manages to overpower Captain America once again. But right before he can deliver the final blow, Zemo comes to the rescue, locating a sword decoration from the Senate building. Zemo swings it and decapitates the leader, ending the war once and for all. We cut to Captain America flying in following the battle, as he announces that Stearns is now dead. At this point, the other Flag Smashers surrender and are arrested, while Zemo decides to slip away into the shadows. Thunderbolt Ross is alive, although he is in need of medical attention. This is when Captain America is hit with the press about everything as people ask him what just happened and why he's suddenly dressed as Captain America. That is when Sam reveals that in his dying moments, Steve Rogers gave him the shield, and that he is the one who will be taking the mantle of Captain America. Sam then states that in order for there to be proper peace, the Sokovian Accords must be taken down. Many question this, and even Ross tries to counter, before Sam gives his new speech. The Sokovian Accords were of good intention, to protect civilians from the destruction laid in the wake of the Avengers' battles. But they were also an attempt of government control over superpowered humans. The Avengers did not intend to destroy homes when Loki or Ultron or Thanos attacked. They didn't intend for all of that suffering, and in fact, they stopped it from being so much worse than it was. Yet at the same time, superheroes need to learn responsibility. For those who wield power, there is an instinctive desire for using that power in the name of control. For all of us, whether you're a superhero, or a politician, or a manager, or a bank teller, to just a simple man or woman on the street, it is your responsibility
to help each other, to use your power to benefit others rather than yourself. Otherwise, all we will have is greed with no funnel to an end. The Sokovian Accords were designed to both mitigate power for one group and hand deliver it to another. We as superheroes do need to be put in check, but not by those who only want to point us in the direction of an often self-serving agenda, rather than what we need. Hell, the reason we all just got attacked here tonight was because of Thunderbolt Ross deciding to send his own superheroes of the Accords to go and infiltrate a foreign country and engage in battle with a political rival, leading to the violent death of a brave soldier named Lamar Hoskins. You all have the power to change this. The question you must now ask yourself is, how are you going to use it? As the crowd remains silent, Captain America takes to the skies and flies off, waiting for the impending news of tomorrow. We cut to the next day as Sam is sitting in his house, watching a news report from the previous night of Captain America and listening to the people talk about him and how it's good to have Cap back. That is when the channel changes as Sam watches a courtroom as Thaddeus Ross takes the stage. Recently, we've held a vote regarding the viability of the Sokovian Accords in recent days. Our votes have come in, and I am here to announce to the world and to superheroes all around that the Accords have been repealed. I only hope now that all of you find the proper responsibility to do the right thing with this gift. Sam smiles at his TV with relief as a new age for superheroes has been created. We then cut to Bucky as he goes to Yori's apartment and reveals the truth on what happened to his son, referring back to the flashback at the beginning of the film. And then we cut to a celebration at the bar as Sam and Bucky grab some drinks and celebrate their victory, as Bucky proposes a toast to the new Captain America. And that is where our story ends. We see Zemo preparing to board his stolen plane. He looks at the sword he used to kill Stearns, as he decides he's gonna hold on to it for right now. He gets on the plane only to find Val sitting in one of the seats. What are you doing here?
Waiting for you to finally get here. Zemo grips his sword tightly.
You're here to arrest me.
The same guy who took down the Avengers and Stearns? I guarantee you that there's not a cage you can't escape from. No, I'm here because I believe we're in need of someone as clever as you.
We?
Things are about to get weird, Zemo. Power grabs and corrupt officials drown our world. Corporations like AIM, Roxxon, and Kang Enterprises steal power and drain resources. The government may not have the Sokovian Accords anymore, but that doesn't mean we couldn't use some super-powered backup.
You're putting together a team.
Valentina smiles as John Walker steps into the room. And I want you to lead it. We see Bucky leaving the bar after the celebration as he walks into the night. That is when he hears a sound trying to get his attention, and he walks down into an alleyway where he sees Io. What are you doing here, Io?
White Wolf, we have lost our king, Io reveals. I came to see if you could pay your respects.
Bucky simply stares in shock and sadness as he lowers his head and nods in agreement. And that, my friends, is Captain America: New World Order. I know that this story wasn't supposed to be the opener of our new Phase 4. Technically, this story would come out after Spider-Man Far From Home and Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, since both of those movies are canon to this multiverse saga. but originally the Fantastic Four story would have come before this, but due to some scheduling changes, this one came first. And I'm honestly pretty proud of it. I do get that, yes, it is a rehash of Falcon and the Winter Soldier with some rewritten plot and some rewritten characters, but that was kind of the whole point. Falcon and the Winter Soldier had some really good ideas and really good concepts that unfortunately never seemed to really get off the ground. It had very dysfunctional villains, and multiple characters, notably Zemo and Sharon Carter, felt really out of character. So instead, I decided to take the overarching story of Sam growing from Falcon to Captain America and having to deal with a new government-integrated Captain America, that storyline, simply shorten it down into a movie, take out any unnecessary plot elements like the power broker and fixing a boat, and tried to create a cohesive story that works not only as a reintroduction to this Marvel Universe post-blip, but also serves as a proper move on from the Infinity Saga trilogy of Captain America as we move from Steve Rogers' legacy to Sam Wilson's. I hope you all enjoyed this project, and I hope you continue to stick around for what's to come in both Sam Wilson's journey and this multiverse saga as a whole. I have been your writer and recorder and audio person, Dimon360, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.